The trouble with chemotherapy and conventional treatments is they have no effect on the cancer stem cell. They only kill the daughter cells, the cells that are produced by it. So the tumor will shrink and they'll claim success, but you haven't killed the stem cell, so it all just comes right back. And what they found is when it comes back infinitely more aggressive than it did before.
Again, chemotherapy is a chemical agent whose sole purpose is to kill cells. And the thinking, the medical justification is, well, we're only going to kill the cancer cells. Well, even that doesn't work. If you shrink some of the cells of a tumor, you still have the cancer tumor stem cells that just regrow that same tumor. And then at the same time, you've poisoned healthy cells in the body. So you've now reduced the ability of the body to fight future cancers and future insults and challenges to the immune system.
Turmeric is probably the most heavily researched anti-cancer agent which has the ability to selectively target the root of the cancer, which again, cancer stem cells, and then leave intact the healthy tissue. But you have other substances such as resveratrol, green tea, quercetin found in onions and other herbs, sulforaphane from cruciferous vegetables, especially broccoli sprouts. These are the heavy hitters that I'm sure you know a lot about. It's remarkable because what really this category is often polyphenol category. And so things like catechin and green tea, resveratrol from red grapes, even peanuts, and curcumin from turmeric, actually that category of compounds is produced by plants when they're under stress. And it turns out that organic plants are the only ones that produce these really in any significant amount because they're not basically having pesticides to take care of their pests and petroleum-derived fertilizer to boost their growth. They have to survive the elements like us, so they've developed the strong chemistries to protect them. When we consume those compounds, they activate longevity pathways within our body, similar to what caloric restriction does in fasting, as well as activate things like anti-cancer mechanisms within the cell.
My first love is botanic medicine because in plants there are so many what we call plant chemicals or phytochemicals, and molecules from nature bind to many different cells and receptors, so we get a lot of mileage out of using just a few things. So many people know about curcumin from turmeric, interacts with over 100 genes. So our flavonols, a group of chemicals that turn cancer growth off, turn inflammation off, turn apoptosis on, act on stem cells. So you can see that plants are multitaskers. We can do a lot with a handful of plants.
For instance, you see in leukemia research, they have absolutely shown that leukemia is much more curable if you use quercetin. Most of the leukemias are very sensitive to quercetin. Lymphomas, all of these things are curcumin, quercetin, ellagic acid, resveratrol. All these things inhibit the cancer stem cell, and that's what's interesting about, for instance, curcumin. It actually kills the stem cell, this cancer stem cell. It doesn't bother normal stem cell, but only cancer stem cell.
Curcumin.
Curcumin.
Okay.
And that's the other thing about flavonoids and these plant extracts is they're very selective. They only damage, inhibit, and kill cancer cells. They have no effect on normal cells, except to make the normal cells stronger.
Wow.
Most people who have cancer should have chronic inflammation. So they did this large study, and that's exactly what they found. For instance, in certain people, 70% of them had definable inflammation, either arthritis, chronic atherosclerosis, or some chronic infection, and that's what caused the cancer. If you stop the inflammation, you stop the cancer from ever forming.
So do these substances that you're talking about, these flavonoids, they have any effect on the inflammation?
They're powerful anti-inflammatory.
So they're not only anti-cancer,
very
they're
powerful
anti-inflammatory too.
Yeah, and that's how they're preventing the cancer from occurring.
Okay.
And then they have other mechanisms that affect the cell signaling that kills the cancer, turns on cancer suicide genes.
Okay. So Dr. Blaylock, in light of the fact that these flavonoids are so beneficial, why is not every oncologist using them to treat cancer?
Well, because they don't read their articles. And they don't know what these flavonoids are because they don't know the chemistry. So they've never heard of it. They go to a meeting, and the meeting is about the latest protocol of the latest chemotherapeutic drug.
Right.
And who sponsors the meeting? The makers of the chemotherapeutic drug.
Now, most people think that the only way to get rid of a tumor is to surgically cut it out. But what if I told you that you could actually juice to remove tumors?
You've got everything broken down so well that your body can begin to absorb it right away. So everybody is into fiber, fiber, fiber. Oh, you've got to have all this fiber in your juice. But actually, when it comes to juice as a supplement, like a liquid vitamin, mineral, enzyme, biophoton, phytonutrient glass of wonderful nutrients, it's even better when it doesn't have the fiber in there. Not the soluble, yes, it's got soluble fiber, but the insoluble, because it's going to go right into your system. With cancer, it's even more important to do these kinds of things to heal the body, because as I see it, two primary reasons that people get sick. One is toxicity, and number two is that we are undernourished in this country. People are not getting the vital nutrients.
Talk about your first 5 days of juicing a couple of decades ago.
I was so desperate, and I'm just a very determined person. When I'm going to go for it, I'm going to go completely jump in that pool, you know, and go for it. So I decided I'm going to do a 5-day juice fast. On day number 5, this is honest truth, my body expelled a tumor the size of a golf ball, about that big, with blue blood vessels attached to it. It looked like somebody just chopped them off. And that got my attention, like nothing else.
So 5 days.
5 days on day number 5. So I thought, okay, I should just get well after this. You know, whatever was making me sick is probably gone now, and I should be well. No, I was detoxing. I had some good days and some bad days. I was climbing up that mountain, but it seemed like a couple steps forward and then a couple steps back as my body was getting rid of a lot of toxins. But there came a day when I woke up one morning and thought, oh, somebody gave me a new body in the middle of the night. I mean, I felt like a brand new person.
I was told that I had base of tongue cancer tumors that had spread to my lymph nodes on my neck. And they were worried that it had already spread to the rest of my body and my organs. I went on total vegetarian food. I had a lot of fruit and nuts to eat, and I went on a 3-week fast, just water and taking these vitamins. And after the 3-week fast, I had lost about 10 or 15 kilos, and however, I was feeling good. The swelling at the left side of my neck began to decrease in size, and the swelling at my right decreased, and I was able to swallow much more easily, and my tongue was not swollen so much. So I got really encouraged by this because I was under no doctor's care whatsoever. So I continued this treatment until March. At that point I decided, are these tumors decreasing, or has the cancer spread already? That was my major concern. My blood test went to Germany at the end of April, and I got a call from the doctor's secretary on the 8th of May. She said, your results are here from Germany. And he said, Henry, this is a miracle. He said, I've been a doctor since 1979. You are the first person that has come to this clinic that hasn't been messed around with chemotherapy, radiation, or surgery as a cancer cure. And I said, am I? He said, these are marvelous results.
Now, Henry worked really hard to create an anti-cancer lifestyle through nutrition and through supplements, and he didn't have to suffer through it. Let's listen to Mike Adams, the health ranger, address that topic.
You can have an anti-cancer lifestyle that's actually very friendly, that's very enjoyable. And quite delicious in terms of foods, you know, red grapes, you know, citrus fruits. They're all anti-cancer. You know, all these amazing things that you can eat, they're anti-cancer. Fruits and vegetables, and even nuts and seeds, so many things. Spices are anti-cancer. So you can have an enjoyable life and you can live an anti-cancer lifestyle at the same time.
All your vegetables are going to be great.
It's hard to find a vegetable that's not anti-inflammatory and anti-cancer.
Yeah, it is. Because God packaged them just right. They're our most important food in our fight against cancer. We all the brightly colored vegetables, and there are hardly any that aren't. I mean, a few, and they're still good for us.
Eat the rainbow, right?
Yes, absolutely.
One thing I got turned on to years ago was SCAC-T, and I read about this nurse, Renee Case, up in Canada, back in the 1920s. Many of the cancer patients were referred to her who were terminal by their doctors. And she gave them this tea called Essiac tea, E-S-S-I-A-C, Essiac tea. And it was a blend of herbs given to her by an Indian medicine man. And lots of people were getting cured.
But according to mainstream medicine, Essiac tea is quackery. According to the mainstream medicine, all of these natural remedies have no scientific basis. It's nothing more than snake oil. But is this really true?
We have close to 100,000 references from scientific journals that tell us about the diet, vitamins, minerals, botanicals, natural energies, and so forth, and their influence on health. So, Ty, don't let anybody ever tell you that this isn't scientific. There's just tons of science. It's just that nobody pays attention to it because, I'm sorry folks, it isn't patentable.
During the first half of the 20th century, no less than 9 Nobel Prizes were rewarded or awarded for vitamin research for the benefit of vitamins for human health. In 1963, the German government, under pressure of Bayer, launched what is called a Codex Alimentarius Commission, with the goal to make sure that vitamins and the benefits of vitamins for human health are being eliminated worldwide. So you can see, it is not just you and us talking about cancer. There's a century-long tradition of crime against human health. And when you follow that track, a lot of the things we will be talking about today will become easier to understand for the people that watch this interview.
Genetically modified organisms, you take genes from one species and force it into the DNA of other species. Now, the GM crops on the market, there's 9 of them, and the primary traits are either herbicide tolerance or pesticide production. So herbicide tolerance, Roundup Ready is the most popular. Roundup Ready soy, corn, cotton, canola, sugar beets, and alfalfa. They're engineered with genes from bacteria and pieces of virus, etc., not to die. The plant doesn't die when it's sprayed with Roundup herbicide, which normally kills plants. So it makes weeding easier for farmers. They can simply spray over the crops and kill all of the weeds, but not the Roundup Ready crops. And the other genetically modified trait that's popular is pesticide production. They take a gene from bacteria in the soil called Bacillus thuringiensis, or BT for short, and take that gene which produces a known insecticide and put it into corn and cotton. So when a bug, certain types of bugs, eat or try to bite the plant, the toxin gets released and then it breaks open little holes in their stomach walls and they die. So now we eat that insecticide and we also eat the Roundup-laden crops. So we're eating 2 types of poisons in these GM crops.
What we are doing if we are modifying the genes in the plants to make them more resistant against bacteria. And what is digesting the food in our stomach and intestine? Bacteria. 2 kilograms of bacteria are in our stomach and intestine. And now you serve them the food which they can't use normally because these are protected by genetical approaches to avoid this destroying. And now new combinations of peptides are left in our stomach and our intestine and absorbed by our blood. Yeah? And then we don't know the interaction with the systems in our body.
When we're making plants that are like Frankenstein, that are not natural, that's where we get into trouble, because then we're playing God with nature and we don't know what kind of monsters we're actually going to create, or if our body can actually metabolize them, or if those combinations of genes are going to turn on other disease processes. There's too many unknowns.
We are all participants in a mass experiment. Pretty much unless you've been living in a cave somewhere or growing all your own food, you have consumed some GMOs at some point. But all of our restaurants virtually contain genetically modified organisms in their ingredient supply. So unless you never eat out at restaurants, you're probably being exposed to them.
Roundup can promote cancer in many, many ways. First of all, it's an antibiotic, and it kills off beneficial gut bacteria, causing an overgrowth of the bad gut bacteria. Now, this overgrowth of negative gut bacteria is linked to certain cancers, colorectal cancer, for example. The overgrowth of negative gut bacteria can produce zonulin, which can create leaky gut. It opens the gaps in the cell walls on the intestines, and leaky gut is linked to cancer. Roundup also damages a set of enzymes called the CYP enzymes, which are part of the detoxification process, and CYP enzymes are linked to cancer. And one of the problems with Roundup is it can disable some of those enzymes that are involved with detoxification. So any toxic influence from the environment can be much more toxic when you're also exposed to Roundup or its active ingredient glyphosate. Through the gut bacteria overgrowth, it can promote inflammation in the gut, and inflammation is also linked to cancer. So Roundup has all these different ways, like a perfect storm.
The other thing that no one really talks about is glyphosate is patented in 1964 by a company called the Stouffer chemical company, and it was meant to be a chelator of minerals, trace minerals, magnesium especially. So what's happening is every person tested has some glyphosate typically running through them, depending on how they eat. But majority of people do, including mothers, including newborn babies. So what you're looking at is going through your body as a sponge that pulls your minerals out of your body, pulls your magnesium out of your body. So, and this is coming from also soil that has glyphosate in it that takes up the magnesium. So there is a huge push for magnesium deficiency and people to supplement magnesiums, and that's one of the reasons this is happening right now.
It's amazing that we know that glyphosate causes cancer, and it's the main ingredient in Roundup, which is used on all the GMO corn and the soy, but the FDA does not require a single study to determine whether GMOs are safe.
In the finding by Professor Seralini, who ran his same study that Monsanto ran, that recently came out, it was supposed to be for 6 months, but actually only for 3 months. In that study, when he ran it for 2 years on the same rodents, what did he find? Well, he found liver and kidney damage beyond control group. He found 50% shorter life for males, 70% shorter life for females beyond the control group. This is GMO corn. And he found 200 to 300% increase in tumors.
They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, so check out what the rats look like after eating GMO corn.
The good news is that you can easily avoid it by eating real food. You don't have to worry about it. They're counting on the fact that you're not, that you're going to be what most of the typical American who has 95% of his calories, 95% of his calories is processed food.
Wow.
95%. Our bodies weren't designed to be exposed to that type of food. So you have to be careful because it's easy. Anyone can easily do that today. And how do you avoid it? You just stay away from processed foods. Or there's 3 words that I strongly recommend. It's 3 easy words to remember, and that is eat real food.
I love that. Eat
real food.
Yeah.
Because when you do that, you know what you accomplish? You avoid the artificial ingredients that are inserted into your food. And most people are not aware that there's over 10,000 chemicals that are labeled GRAS, generally recognized as safe, by the food industry themselves. And by labeling them as GRAS, they are able to penetrate a loophole that allows them never to be tested for human safety. Let alone, not just singly, but let alone when combined with all the others. So there's synergistic toxicity. So when you eat real food, you avoid the chemicals.
There was a recent study out of Sweden that was interesting. It was a 2-week analysis, very brief, but what it showed was just so profound. A family that was eating conventionally grown, non-organic foods, pesticide-laden, who thought it was too expensive to eat organic. They did a test. They said, all right, we're going to take urine samples when you start eating your regular food. Then we're going to switch the whole family, kids, parents, everybody, to organic. And over the course of even 1 day, and ultimately 2 weeks, the pesticide levels in the urine was extraordinarily high in everything. And each day it dropped to the point 2 weeks it was almost undetectable. Now that tells you how fast the body can adapt once you stop putting the onslaught in. But it was a very powerful visual for people to recognize how fast, especially in children, you can reverse ill health by simply stopping the inflow of things that put your body in a state of defense instead of growth and healing.
Sweden. This is a country right across the Baltic Sea from a small country called Latvia. The people there are extremely healthy, and there is almost no obesity in Latvia. Now, if you remember in episode 1, we learned about the war against cancer. But what if I were to tell you that there is actually a virus against cancer? Let's go learn a little bit more from Riga, Latvia, as we explore this interesting topic.
Rigvir is live virus, live and frozen virus to keep Rigvir alive. And it works as a live virus which find in human body cancer cells and destroys them.
So you could think of it as a good or a healthy virus.
It's exceptionally really good virus. We got used that name virus means something bad. Here we talk about opposite situation. We know at least one really good virus which helps a patient to get rid of cancer cells.
Rigvir virus has the peculiarity of selectively targeting cancer cells, leaving normal cells untouched. And so with Rigvir viral therapy, we can target those stem cells that chemo and radiation do not, and even make more aggressive.
Comes second mechanism of Rigvir. Whenever those Rigvirs are attracted to cancer cells, those cancer cells becoming visible for human immune system. Until that time, they are invisible. They have natural ability to be hidden from immune system. And due to Rigvir guidance, because Rigvir is attached, virus is attached to cancer, and this Rigvir is inside the cancer cell. So immune system, due to Rigvir, recognize cancer and start react against this cancer.
The Rigvir is binding to the receptor site on the cancer cell surface called the CD55. And when it binds to this receptor, now the T cells, the B cells, the natural killer cells will recognize the cancer cells and mount a specific immune response.
There's no side effects to Rigvir?
No, I have no malpractice in oncology. Please calculate very quickly. Since 1989, I never saw some side effects.
Actually, here in International Virotherapy Center, we have largest experience yet accumulated for virotherapy with Rigvir. So patients today, more than from 40 countries are coming to Riga to get this treatment and to be cured from their cancers.
I'm so excited to have been able to share this information with you tonight. I hope it's impacted your life, and if it has, please share with your friends, share with your family. Bring them back tomorrow for tomorrow night's episode, because it will contain some life-changing information. Until then, have a great evening. God bless every one of you out there.